Flew over the North Pole.
From the second Victoria opened her mouth, I was absolutely captivated. Right now, she's probably my favorite character in the whole White Lotus series. Every time this woman speaks, it is a masterclass in wealthy delusion and cultural narrowness. We see that Victoria is looking down on Buddhism. Well, because it's not Christianity, the religion she grew up around. Even though, let's be honest, most people she grew up around, including her, probably don't possess any real Christian values. Victoria does not like that Piper has found such a strong connection with Buddhism. So much so that Piper is writing a quote unquote thesis on Buddhism, that she desires to be in the literal presence of them. Unlike Piper, Victoria is only comfortable around people who share her religion, share her quote unquote good values, and have a lot of fucking money. To Victoria, Buddhism represents the rejection of the lifestyle, the right way to live that she has tried so hard to pass down to her daughter. Her daughter, who is actively rebelling against the values she has raised Piper to be proud of.
Couldn't she write her thesis on her own religion? She could have interviewed the Archbishop of Canterbury.
You can hear the real subtext. What makes Buddhism any better than Christianity? We are wealthy Christians. We won. They are monks in Thailand. They lost. What makes them better than us? This isn't genuine curiosity on Victoria's part. It's wounded pride. People like Victoria think that the way they raise their children is so much better in every possible way compared to the way other people raise their children. And because of that, people like Victoria believe that only a very, very, very few select group of people are good enough to associate with their children. Look gorgeous and come from money, so you need to be hyper vigilant, okay? People like Victoria will rarely or never stop to think that it wasn't all good values and it wasn't overall a good experience that they gave to their children. People like this refuse to see or even acknowledge any of the not so good traits or experiences they gave to their children whilst they were trying to instill those good old Christian values. These two believe that as they have only passed down good values and privilege to their children, only good things can be expected. To state it more clearly, these two feel that because of the life they have given their children can only choose a future that aligns with their vision. Tim asks the kids what goals they had while they are on vacation. When Lachlan says he just plans to chill, Tim corrects him and says he will be getting a treatment to correct his posture. When Lachlan says that he still needs to decide which college he's going to go to, Tim enforces that there is no decision, that he is going to go to the college he wants his son to go to. It is the we pay, so we choose your destiny rule that is very universal in the lives of privileged children. The Ratliffs believe that because they raised their children with good values and material wealth, their children owe them a specific life trajectory. Piper is supposed to be a polished Christian high achieving daughter, and Lachlan is supposed to attend the university of their choosing. Basically, the plan is for all three of them to become like Saxon.
Having sex in Thailand is like eating a box of chocolates. You never know which one's gonna have nuts.
Alright. In families like this, parenting is a transaction. We gave you privilege, now you owe us unwavering obedience. When Piper finally tells Victoria and Tim about her plans, Victoria responds saying,
But you're not a Buddhist.
Yes, I am, Mom.
You can be interested in this stuff, but you could never really be it. We're from an entirely different world. Honey, you're not from China.
It's obvious that Victoria is really, really appalled by Piper wanting to live with monks in Thailand rather than graduate and join her place right next to her in high society. Piper is not doing what is expected of someone who was raised in her conditions. I think for Victoria, it is a mixture of fear because her daughter wasn't brought up to live a simple life and confusion that Piper wants to live a life so drastically different from Victoria's. So, what does Victoria do? She tells Piper, you know what, if you can spend one night in this meditation center, I will completely support you. Victoria is setting Piper up for a test she cannot pass. It's not even a test, it's a setup. Piper was raised in luxury, surrounded by comfort, and Victoria knows that. Victoria knows that Piper cannot adapt overnight. We see Piper literally crumble at the breakfast table.
I went back to my room and it was this like tiny little box with like a mattress with stains on it and no air conditioning, and
it confirms what Victoria already knew, that Piper was not going to be able to pass the test because Piper was not raised to be able to pass the test, and it affirms what Victoria said previously at the dinner table. You can be interested in this stuff, but you could never really be it. We're from an entirely different world. Piper was too spoiled to be a Buddhist. And unlike Piper, Victoria does not see this reality as a loss. She sees it as balance restored. Piper tried to escape the life she was born into and failed. And to Victoria, that's not tragic. It's natural. And the apple certainly doesn't fall far from the tree. Like Saxon, Victoria also has her way of compartmentalizing. She only feels comfortable around people who share her religion, share her good values, and have a lot of fucking money. People who don't meet that specific criteria are simply background actors, extras in her personal Truman Show. Victoria and Timothy both operate under the belief that their wealth and values place them far above everyone else. This perception influences their interactions, leading them to dismiss or belittle those who do not conform to their standards, including their own children, when they deviate from expected norms.
Got into Duke. You're going to Duke.
But you're not a Buddhist.
Yes, I am, Mom.
Victoria's judgments are rooted in a belief that wealth and traditional Christian values confer superiority. Even among the rich, if someone doesn't tick all her boxes, such as wealth, whiteness, Christianity, respectability, then she has no desire to be around them or even remember them. We see it in how she assumes that Chelsea is a bimbo that Rick probably met on the internet, in how she vaguely remembers meeting Kate at a baby shower and then coldly ignores her because, for whatever reason, even though Kate is also rich, Kate doesn't tick all of Victoria's boxes, in how she refers to actresses as prostitutes, in how she judges the monks for their simple lifestyle. Victoria's selective memory and ability to disregard people and information she doesn't deem worthy is just comedy gold.
You want to live in Taiwan?
This woman cannot even be bothered to remember that they're currently in Thailand, not Taiwan. Then there's the normalization of dysfunction that has been displayed and passed down throughout the many seasons of the Ratliff family values. The dinner table scene is not just a darkly funny moment. It is a perfect snapshot of how wealthy families often deal with deep dysfunction, with performance, with denial, and with a carefully curated illusion of everything's fine. While the family is sitting together, Victoria literally falls asleep at the dinner table. She had been fully awake and engaged just minutes before. The kids, instead of showing concern or asking if something is wrong, they nudge her awake and laugh at how sedated she is. The moment isn't treated as serious, it's treated as normal and funny. Victoria's heavy sedation is so deeply entrenched in their family routine that it doesn't register as alarming anymore. It's the same way that in wealthy circles, a teenager going to rehab multiple times isn't seen as a crisis anymore. It's seen as a lifestyle inconvenience. Oh, fifth stint in rehab? Well, fifth time's the charm, babe. Good luck. There's no intervention, no concern, just jokes. Saxon copies his mother's emotional avoidance. It takes him towards the end of the episode of the season to finally understand that Chelsea genuinely loves Rick. And I think he mirrors these limitations from Victoria. who flat out asks this young woman whether she's with her older boyfriend because he has money or because she's afraid of him. Now, I am not one to judge. Actually, that's entirely inaccurate. However, I choose to believe that there are relationships where there is a significant age gap and the love isn't just fully based on the older partner having a lot of money. In her own way, I think she genuinely loves this man. Now, does the money help? Is it a great bonus? You bet your ass it is. But I think that this can be seen as a real loving relationship, as long as she's not under the age of 25. But in all seriousness, Victoria and Tim aren't cartoon villains. They are the logical outcome of generations of wealth, cultural arrogance, and emotional repression. Other kinds of normalized dysfunction that has been passed down throughout the many seasons of the Ratliff family values are a I'm better than you complex over the non-wealthy and the non-Christian, open xenophobia disguised as patriotism or religious pride, criticizing other people's financial crimes while admitting that they game the tax system,
Well, not so badly that we have to leave the country.
and finally, a severe case of alcohol dependency and drug addiction. Now, alcohol dependency and drug addiction is already quite severe, but when it gets to this level, just to get through the day, emotional numbing isn't a tragedy, it's a punchline. Addiction isn't an emergency, it's an inconvenience.
I don't even have my lorazepam. I'm gonna have to drink myself to sleep.
And I know what you may be thinking if you're still watching this. I'm supposed to be talking about Victoria and Tim. To be honest with you, this man was just breaking down for 3/4 of the season. So if you want like a more detailed analysis on Timothy Ratliff, I'm pretty sure other YouTubers and other TikTokers have done way more detailed stuff. So here's my analysis. Timothy is entangled in a financial scandal, facing potential grievous legal consequences. Upon learning that his associate is cooperating with federal authorities, Timothy reacts with intense anger and despair, exclaiming that he would rather die. This dramatic response underscores his fear of losing his status and the life he has built, revealing a fragile ego dependent on external validation, something Saxon very much copies. A life this luxurious comes with eyes on you. It comes with your friends and family constantly judging you and constantly wanting you to live up to a certain standard. Which is why, when Tim started acting weird, Saxon noticed he's drinking a lot. He's not present. There's even that scene when the family is approaching the boat. We can see that he's disheveled. I think Saxon and Tim have a way of dressing very much alike. Saxon has a way of rolling his sleeves, but Tim doesn't do the same with his sleeves. And I think that's a very tiny detail that the costume department probably did on purpose. So many things Tim does just make Saxon so confused. In the beginning of the season, all Tim seems to care about is exercising and checking on his business, which is something that Saxon kind of emulates. He wants to maintain his physique and get some work done while they're on vacation. So when Tim is like, hey family, let's all get immersed in this resort's wellness program, Saxon was like, the fuck? We can rightfully assume that Tim has raised Saxon to be a workaholic. So when Tim tells Saxon that there's gotta be more to life than just success, right? Saxon is just like, who are you? With Tim's fast approaching crisis, which is having his freedom, his career, his wealth, his business, his house, and his position in high society all being stripped away from him by the government because of his shady financial decisions, he immediately succumbs to Victoria's way of coping. Tim starts his own pill popping and alcohol dependency. And he does it so casually. When he steals Victoria's lorazepam, there's no internal debate in his head. And when Victoria Asks him at night whether he wanted a pill. He rejects her offer, standing firm on his self proclaimed no drug policy. After Tim does some brief soul searching and realizes that there is no worse fate than poverty, and upon learning that his wife and son kinda agree with him that without money they have nothing to live for, or they just have nothing, Tim decides that a proper solution to dealing with him and his family losing their wealth and position in high society is partial family unaliving. Till it isn't.
Is that it, Tim? Have you ever heard of wine?
Anyway, I will not tell you to like, subscribe, or comment. You will do that if you want to. But if the spirit moves you, or if my witchcraft just happens to work, I'm glad you stayed, and I hope to see you again.